Do you know about the temporary personality and the permanent personality? Have we talked about that yet?
No, we haven't.
Ooh, okay. Um, let's go all the way back to where we're with God and the worlds haven't been created yet. And then there comes that point in time where that fruit, that seed, that spherical pattern is created. And then we project into that called a human idea. And as we project into that spherical pattern, our soul is created. And the soul is a consciousness that inhabits the sphere, the spherical pattern. So our oneness with God inhabits the sphere. And as it inhabits the sphere, a consciousness is created around that of I now exist as a human. But it's just the idea. It's just the essence. It's just the heart, the essence of our being as a human. But we haven't projected yet these bodies. And in that state, it's a personality. It now has a personality, but it's not a well-developed personality because it hasn't lived anything yet. It has all this potential to think and understand, but it hasn't lived anything yet. So then it projects a part of itself into a body, Daniela, Edward, other people. We're projections of our soul into a body. And our ability now to think in a body is our temporary personality. And so our temporary personality lives, we have to eat, we have to sleep, we have to make money, we have to clean the house, we have to do all these things. While our soul permanent personality observes everything. It observes everything we do and records everything that happens, all of our feelings, all of our thoughts. It's recording and developing its own personality through through these lives that we live. It's developing that. Okay, here comes the thing. The permanent personality determines what happens in our life. If the permanent personality says, I want my Edward to have this challenge, my permanent personality will create that challenge in my life so that it can experience it. It experiences that through me, its own creation. So, in many ways, we're talking with our permanent personality. I've seen my permanent personality face to face. I've seen it. I've touched it. So I know what it is. And the thing about that is that's our real self. The permanent personality, it will be forever. My personality, Edward, is an elemental. I'm a creation of my soul to live. At the end of my life, I become a memory within that spherical pattern of my soul. I will never learn any more. I will never develop any more. Once I'm finally assimilated back into that spherical heart of my soul, I will never know anymore. You can go back and visit a past life, that personality of a past life, and it will not be able to tell you anything that happened after its life. It only knows its life. It is impossible for it to learn anything more. And that's who we are. We're just like lives, and then once the life is over, it stops. and is recorded and will be like this forever. Such that, Stylianos, he would go back and visit his past lives and talk with them. So, what did they do? What did they think? And he would research them to understand how, who are they. So he could actually go back, like in the Akashic records. You know about the Akashic records?
Mm-hmm.
Same kind of thing. You go back within your own spherical self, your spherical core, heart. You tune into a past life that's recorded there, and you can actually sit down and talk with them. And he learned by talking with his past lives that they could never learn anything beyond that life. That was it. If you tried to teach them anything new, they couldn't learn. It was like talking to a recording. You could only ask them about their life, what happened in their life. If anything was beyond that, they could not respond.
Are these personalities what we would call as ghosts that moves around or not really?
Yes,
Yes.
there are different forms of ghosts.
Mhm.
Some ghosts are elementals. Some ghosts, well, that's a whole nother issue. That's a whole nother issue of what demons are and ghosts are and the fallen angels, how they fit into this whole picture. That's a whole nother story. But it's important to know that we have an eternal self, that permanent personality with our soul. And then it projects part of its consciousness into a body, and then that consciousness situates itself mostly around the eyes, because this is where we're living life. If a person's blind, it might focus in around the ears, because that's where they're receiving most of their information from the environment. Or maybe around the mouth, because they're hearing and talking. So the consciousness tends to focus on those senses. Um, the the point of consciousness that we would consider our personality, like if I'm looking at you now, I can feel that point of consciousness here as I'm looking. But it is possible to move that point of consciousness to another part of your body and look through other parts of your body. Conceivably, you could move that to your back and be able to look behind you. You can move that point of consciousness. You can, when you leave your body, you can actually move it out of your body and let it travel around outside of your body. That's kind of who we are as a personality. Like a point, consider it a point of light that's given a position inside the body, like here, but it can move and explore outwards. It can leave the body. And once you begin to experience that, you realize we are not our body. We're just like a point of light, a point of consciousness within this aura of soul energy. So, when we talk with ourselves, we're really talking with our permanent personality. When people pray, they're really praying to their permanent personality. When people think they see God, they're actually seeing their permanent personality as a soul. So many people, when they hear voices, think they're hearing God. They're just hearing their soul, their permanent personality, soul self, trying to teach them something, trying to communicate with them. So ultimately, the spiritual journey, so to speak, that we're on, even though we're spiritual beings, now we're living this human journey. But we're spiritual beings living our human journey. And part of this human journey is to try and find ourselves again. So we have to find our permanent personality. But the permanent personality is developing with each life that we live, or each life that is lived for it, so to speak. Our life is to enrich our permanent personality. Eventually, our permanent personality grows in consciousness and awareness. But when our temporary personalities are able to grow to that point of having the same consciousness with the permanent personality, in that instance, when our temporary personality is one with its permanent personality and they're thinking together as one, all things become possible. The healing becomes possible, out of body travel becomes easy. Everything, all those spiritual things we hear about become easy, natural. And we've kind of, at that point in time, we've gone beyond life. We understand life. We feel life, and yet at the same time, we don't live life the same way. We don't, we're not anxious. We become generous. We have more love. We don't worry. And it's that whole journey of just developing our awareness to be with our permanent personality. Now, think about that a second, and let me know if you have a question about that.
No, it makes sense. Yeah. Uh, it matches with the perceptions, everything that I've been reading and seeing, and yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So let me ask you, who are you?
I I am one expression of this higher self or permanent personality. But I've seen in therapy my other lives, some other lives.
Yeah.
Through kind of hypnosis in a therapy that I've done uh, to cure something, the therapist, he asked me after the procedures to go to the first time that problem happened to me. And then I was able, this first time was not in this life, so I've seen at that day another life, and I'm like watching myself. I felt what that person was feeling. I thought I knew everything. So it's really a crazy thing. So I was in another body, but feeling and knowing everything that person was living. So yeah, really. So that's makes a lot of sense. Experience was really crazy because I it made a lot of sense to me because um, that experience showed me why I was feeling I was having some kind of feelings and fears and all that. So it made a lot of sense to me. But yeah, so what you're saying really matches with this experience I had.
Yeah, a lot of this, to understand the spherical pattern, is to understand our structure. And it's pretty amazing how we are built. Even our body is amazing, but the soul structure is so even though our body is amazing in forming teeth and bones and the blood and the heart pumping and the oxygen exchange and everything, our soul has a structure too, inhabiting this body. And its structure is amazing. And yet people don't see it, people don't know it. Yeah, there are energy centers, but you have to be able to see those energy centers to kind of really appreciate how energy moves in and around our body. And then the consciousnesses. When let me there are angels. I mean, how you understand angels, you can think of an angel as maybe an electromagnetic consciousness. It doesn't have to be like a pretty person with wings, right? It can be just an electromagnetic consciousness that you can tune in with and talk to. When we come down and inhabit that spherical pattern, and our soul consciousness now begins to think. When we project our bodies, there are certain angels, certain consciousnesses that maintain our body. They know how to take care of our liver, they know how to take care of our heart, our brain, how to form our teeth, everything. They come down and take care of our body. We just have to live in it. And then we can eat, do certain things, and the body will show the consequence of that. But the angels are taking care of our body. From lifetime to lifetime, they're the same angels that only belong to you. They know all of the bodies you have lived in. They know all of the experiences you've had with sickness, and they belong to your spherical pattern. So, yeah, the spherical pattern is wonderful. It integrates astrology and acupuncture, but there's so many more mysteries inside that spherical pattern that are way beyond astrology and acupuncture still. That there's angels in there just for you to take care of you. There's a guardian angel that also comes down and accompanies your spherical pattern with your soul consciousness, with your permanent personality and the guardian angel. They come together. The best way to explain this is you take two candles, right? One candle here, one candle here, and they each have a flame, right? But
Mhm.
if you take two candles and put them together, you still have two candles down below, but one flame. That's what happens with between our permanent personality and our guardian angel. It's like two angels in one. But you can discern the difference between the guardian angel and the permanent personality, even though they're the same consciousness. You can still listen, and the voice of the permanent personality is different from the voice of the guardian angel. But they're still one with your flame. So the depth of how this spherical pattern really expresses from God to give life is incredible. The energies, the lights, the consciousness, the potential, the the discipline to remember everything you do, all of your emotions, all of your thoughts, all of your dreams and desires. gets stored in that spherical pattern. And there's angels there taking care of it. Now, the purpose of life is to live it, is to have a story. So the purpose is to live through challenges, to live through sickness, to live through pain, to live through sadness, to live through the ups and downs and the craziness of life. That's the purpose of living. And yet down here it's like we don't want the pain. We're the ones having the pain. But at the same time, that's what the permanent personality wants. It wants us to have pain. It wants us to struggle. It wants us to go through this story of life. That's what it wants. That's what it needs to develop. So we live it. We live the pain. We live the sorrow. We live the sadness. We live all of the challenges of life. And then our body dies. And eventually we go back as a memory. And if you can consider that spherical pattern, say the brain of our soul, we just become a memory in our brain. That's it. We just become a memory in our brain. There's nothing more we're going to do. Our story has ended. And then another story, another person, temporary personality will be created. Whether it's in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years or 50 years, another personality will be created. And then it lives another life, another story. Maybe it has a sickness, maybe not. Maybe it's poor, maybe it's rich. Maybe it's male, maybe it's female. Whatever. It's a story. That story, that person dies, and all of a sudden, all of their thoughts, all of their memories, all of their emotions come back to that spherical pattern, which is called the Book of Life. It's another name for it, the Book of Life. Is all of the lives that we live come back and are recorded in that spherical pattern.
And these temporary personalities, where they reside, all of them
Inside the spherical pattern, inside
inside
the
there.
seed of life.
Yeah. Because in this regression experience, I saw some of them, but kind of, how can I say? Yeah, they came and they go away. So yeah.
But in reality, each of those past lives is a point of light inside our book of life, that spherical pattern. And that's just the brilliant way that the angels can take a point of light and it contains a lot of memory, a lot of information. The angels can take that and present you with a person to say, okay, now you can talk. We'll show you a person. Now you can talk to them. But when you turn away, that image of a person goes away and it just becomes a point of light again. This is just who we are. And the ability to create these images that we can interact with is just phenomenal. The creativity to think these things through is just incredible what God can do to create all these stories. So I would say, as you talk with yourself to heal yourself, add a couple of other little thoughts in there. Like, I know who I am. I know that life is beautiful, and I know that I am eternal through you, permanent personality, right? Um, it just to say, I'm good with this. I'm fine. I'm living my life exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And it makes me happy knowing that. It's not my life, it's yours. It's not my life. I'm living this for you, which is really me, right?
Mhm.
because my permanent personality is really just me, and it's never going to die. It doesn't feel pain. Um, there's certain things I can't tell you about when I saw my own permanent personality. I leave it to you to discover your own permanent personality. And then you'll see certain things about who you really are. And I can't really tell you. It's just like I leave it up to you in that moment to find it, to
Yeah.
discover the emotion, the face, everything, and what it means.
When I had that experience, the the person from my past life, it was so different. I saw men, both men and women from the past, but they were very different from me. So it's strange because I could feel what they feel, but they think very different from me,
Did you see
Uh,
their faces?
uh, yes, yes, I saw.
Do they look something like you?
No,
Something?
no.
Because
One
usually,
of, one of actually two of them, yes,
yes.
but not 100%. Yeah.
Normally, your past lives look something, each life looks a
Mhm,
little similar
mhm,
because your angels are basically creating your body. When when we're developing inside of our mother, the angels are forming the faces and forming our body
mhm,
according to an image that they're going to build.
mhm.
It doesn't just happen by genetics. There's angels, consciousnesses directing what we're going to look like.
Yes. And there is one moment of that experience that the therapist said, "Oh, now ask your own lives to come here and appear to you and tell me what you see." And then I asked, and I saw several different people, but then both women and men, all that, and then I was not feeling anything.
It's a story. It's just a story. And we're going to live all kinds of stories. That's just who we are. We really need to live a lot of variety of stories. So
Yes.
yeah, I remembered some past lives that were very hard to remember. Oh wow. Yeah. And but I've learned to deal with them now. I've learned to accept them and forgive. I've learned to understand. I've learned what a life is. When I remembered those lives, who I was back then had no idea what reincarnation was. Had no idea that I'm going to live beyond this as a soul and then I'll come back as a different person. I thought that was it. The pain I experienced was the end. But the thing is I think Buddha has it correct. It's our attachments. When we attach to our emotions and our feelings and our responses and we attach ourselves to the world, that's where the pain is going to come from because we're going to be ripped apart from that. We're going to have strange feelings. We're not going to know ourselves as a spirit. We're not going to know ourselves. So it's that attachment to this world that's going to give us pain, sadness, and like you say, that coldness of emotions sometimes. It's just the way it's going to be. And there are different layers and levels of that in the emotional order. But it's like we have to live through those points in the emotional order to eventually fully develop the emotional order to mature. So you might do something that's really not something you want to do. And
Mhm.
then as you develop more into the emotional order and you get towards those last stages of like Neptune and Pluto, the water, where the reality of your life hits you and you get that sense of guilt or that sense of loss or sadness or that sense of I hurt people. Then those feelings come and you realize what happened. But in the earlier stages of the emotional development, you don't feel that yet.
No.
And so we can live lives at that level. I can't just sit here and say that there's one planet that would be ruthless and cruel like that. It's kind of a combination of a few planets that make us. And so that's the beauty of like reincarnation is we can come back, look back and say, I'm going to grow from this. I'm going to learn what I did wrong. I did something wrong, and I'm going to learn from this and get better. So we all have that in our past lives, of making huge mistakes emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically. We've made so many mistakes. But being able to look back and go and forgive and say, that personality just did not understand at that point in time. Now I understand. What am I going to do with this understanding? Is it possible for me to ever return to that state now? Probably not. I don't you wouldn't be able to return to that because now you have the consciousness of it.
Mhm.
You wouldn't be able to return to that state in a future life. You couldn't do it because now you are aware of it. As you learn more and more about who you are, you get closer to God because it's like I can see how I got here. It's like I'm not separate from God. I can see how I came from God. And I went through a holy monad down to the human idea entering the spherical pattern, had a soul, and that soul started to create different bodies and consciousnesses, the mental, the emotional, the physical, and here I am. So it's like you can see how God created us. And you can see that certain parts are eternal. I'm not eternal. I will live on as a memory, but that's it. I'm just going to be a memory. But my soul, my permanent personality, whew, that's where the story is. It doesn't sleep. It watches you every moment of the day and every moment of the night. It's watching you in your dreams. It's there watching you. Your own soul is watching you. You go to sleep and you start to dream. Your own soul is watching you, guiding you into certain experiences in your dreams. So if you wake up sad, where does that come from? It could come from a dream during the night where your soul is giving you a certain experience in your dreams and like triggering a certain emotion within you. And it's nothing, like you say, it's nothing about your life. It's nothing about the people in your life. Everything's fine. It's something that came from within you. And it could happen in a dream. You wake up, but you don't remember. But that emotion is still vibrating. And it comes with that interaction with the soul during the night. And there's a reason the soul wants you to feel something. And if you remember a past life and you're really, really sad for a week, the soul wanted you to remember so that you could deal with that now with what you know. Back then, you couldn't deal with it because there's certain things you didn't understand. But now the soul is saying, I want you to remember some of the sadness. and deal with it now, because now you're smarter, you're wiser, you have more experience, and we can deal with this now. This is part of the story. So every single day, the soul is talking to us, giving us little challenges, making us feel certain things, making us think certain things, making us do certain things. And we're responding. And it's like we don't really understand where those feelings come from. But once you understand where those feelings come from, it's easier to manage them. Say, oh, this is my soul wanting me to feel this. And then you ask the question, why does my soul want me to feel this? And then your soul's going, yes, 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 keep asking questions, right? Maybe my soul wants me to feel this because there's still sadness within me. Yes, 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 yes. Keep asking questions, right? So where does that sadness come from? And then you start to think, maybe that sadness came from something that happened, no, I don't know, at another time. And your soul's going, yes, yes, now you can hear me. And once you develop that communication with your soul, you are on your way. That's when you can talk with your body and say, heal, and the body will heal. And your soul will say, we are in communication now. You can hear me. We can talk this through. Now you understand. But we have to ask these questions, right? Soul, tell me what I need to learn here. What do I need to ask? And the soul says, once you understand, then you're going to be able to do something about this situation. And that's the story that we have to live.